My name is Dr. Jon Kedrowski, and I was born here in the Vail Valley, so right near the mountains in Colorado, and I started hiking and climbing basically before I turned 10 years old. And so that led me eventually to climbing Mt Everest. I've been on 4 expeditions on Mt Everest. My first climb in 2012, I made it to the top, and then I went back 3 times after that. So 2 summits officially, and then 1 climb I did without supplemental oxygen, and then another climb was aborted because of the earthquake. So in 2015, I was there guiding a trek of a couple of clients, and then I got the trek done, sent the trekkers home, walked back to base camp. We wake up that morning knowing it was really foggy and kind of light snow, and so we decided to wait another day and wait in base camp. And so we're just, some of us reading books or playing cards and then having lunch. This was midday. We're getting prepared to have lunch, sitting in our dining tent. And right before noon, a rumbling began and shaking, and it was the biggest earthquake I've ever experienced. It ended up being 7.9 on the Richter scale, and it was like being on a boat. So you're on this glacier, and the whole thing is shaking back and forth, and the ice sort of crashing against rock, and that sound is something I'll never forget. Once the shaking ended, then there was like a loud rumbling from the surrounding amphitheater, and it was foggy, so you couldn't really tell where it was coming from. And then all of a sudden you saw this big cloud of white emerge from the sky, and it came across the central part of base camp. So I was in base camp, but I was in the upper edge of base camp. And the middle third got wiped out by a big sonic wave. So then walking down maybe 150 yards into that disaster zone, you start seeing these people injured, and it was, at that point, it was shocking, really, at that point.
There's been multiple casualties. We still don't know how many.
A lot of us that were walking through that zone just looked at each other and said, well, okay, our camp, your camp, whatever ones that are still standing, we can triage and just carry people to these camps that are still intact, and basically start creating these medical clinics where there were doctors for some expeditions helping out, and yeah, so at that point the season was over, and it was more about helping others. And so we set up extra tents that we hadn't set up our camps up on the mountain yet, so we set up extra tents. We had enough food until June anyway, and started helping other teams that were coming off the mountain. We stayed there for a week, just until we knew what we could do to get out of there. As I look at my progression on Everest, it was, first time was sort of going to climb for me, and then every time I went back, there were different reasons. And really what drives me to do so is just this ability to raise the bar and to change the way that I see and do Everest. I call it Everesting, actually.